Hey there, Saki here from SAKITECH. You can always find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at SAKITECH Online. In this video, I will share 100 plus tips, tricks, and hidden features for the iPhone X. You paid a lot of money for this smartphone, and it is almost a requirement to gain maximum benefits of ownership by learning as much as you can about your new iPhone X. So in this video, I will dive in and teach you tons of tips and tricks to enhance your ownership. This video is a two-part video. The first part is all about the iPhone X's software features, and the second part is all about iPhone X's fantastic camera features. I'll make sure to time code the camera section so you can access it easier. So let's dive in and discover. Alright, so as you know, to power down your iPhone X, you have to press and hold the power key and also the volume up key at the same time. Now there's actually a trick that can allow you to bypass this button combination just by using the software interface. So let me show you how to get that done to actually turn off your iPhone X. What you want to do is you want to go to the settings, and then you want to scroll down to general, tap on this thing, and then scroll all the way down. At the bottom there's actually a shutdown button, which when you press it actually brings up the slide to power off menu. Alright, so if you don't want to press and hold the power button and the volume up key at the same time, you can just tap this guy here and boom, you get slide to power off, and then you can slide to power off the iPhone. Not a bad feature. Let's move on to the next one. Now the next feature is somewhat obvious, but the reasoning behind it is not so obvious. So if you do go to the settings, and then if you go to the main screen, and just go to the wallpapers really quick, and tap on the choose a new wallpaper, and then go to stills, and then scroll all the way down and you'll see an exclusive black wallpaper. Now obviously everybody probably has seen this, but the reason this black wallpaper actually exists is to actually save battery life. Now the iPhone X has a new OLED display, and OLED display consumes less power when the screen is actually completely black. So once you set your screen's wallpaper to black, let's just do the home screen for now. Go back. In this scenario, your iPhone X is going to actually consume less battery power, and you'll probably notice the benefits of this by having an extra 30 minutes to 1 hour of battery life thanks to that wallpaper. Alright, the next tip I want to share with you guys has to do with the App Store. So let me go to the App Store really quick and let me search for a app. So let's go and look for, let me just type in anything. There we go, Broken Kingdom. And notice one thing, when you look at any app, and if you bring that to focus, if there's a video associated with that app, that video actually starts to play all by itself automatically. Now some people don't like this, so there's a way to actually turn this feature off. So if I'm looking at this guy, even if I go in here, as you can see when I go down, that video starts to play automatically. That's the preview video. Again, you can turn this option off. Let me show you how to do that exactly. So what you want to do is you want to go to the settings, and then you want to scroll down until you see iTunes and App Store. You tap on this thing, and then you look right over here. It says Video Autoplay. You tap on this guy and simply turn it off, or you can also enable the Wi-Fi only option. Now the main reason you want to disable this is to actually save your data. Every single time that video starts to play automatically, you're wasting a lot of data usage. So either pick this option where the video only plays in Wi-Fi mode, or pick this option so the video never plays. So if I go back to the App Store, let me just show you that real quick. If I go back to the App Store and if I search for that same thing, go right inside, that video is not going to play automatically like I did before I had the option enabled. Alright, so let's move on to the next tip. So as you know, the home button is now gone, so there's other ways to navigate your phone. For example, let's say that you are within an application and you want to go to the home screen. All you do is swipe from bottom to top and it'll take you to the home screen. All you have to do is pay attention to that little bar that shows up at the bottom of every little screen, every app window. So if you swipe up like that, boom, you go right back home. And also if you want to access your already running applications, all you do is you swipe up, you take a pause, and then you let go, and what happens is the cards will come right up and you can switch through which one you want to pick, and when you're ready, just tap on it and it's right there. Now, another thing that a lot of people used to do was basically when you go up to the actual window. By the way, you can do this from the actual app also. So if you don't want to go to home, but you just want to bring up the app cards when you're within an application, all you do again is swipe up, take a pause, and just let go, and it's right there. And in the other iPhone, basically you have to swipe these up to kill them. In this one, it doesn't work that way. What you want to do is, let's go back in there real quick. Press and hold, which brings up a red closing bar on the top of every app that you want to get rid of, and you tap on that and it's gone. Okay, so just so you know, let's do that one more time. Swiping up is not going to work. In fact, if you do swipe up, it's going to take you back to the home screen. Alright, so what if you want to bring up Siri? In the old iPhones, you would have to press and hold the home button, which we don't have on the iPhone 10. So what they have done is, you press and hold the power button, and that actually brings up Siri. Let me show you that really quickly. Press and hold. Hey Siri, how you doing? So if you want Siri's assistance for anything, that's what you do. Or you can always say, hey Siri, and that also works. Alright, as you can see. Now the other thing is, so now that you press and hold the power button to bring up Siri, how do you access the part where you can actually turn off your device? In the old phone, again, you pressed and hold the power button and it brought up the option to slide to power off your iPhone. With the iPhone 10, all you have to do is you have to press and hold the volume down and power button at the same time, and that's going to bring up that same menu that you're used to by pressing and holding the power button on the older iPhones. So there we go. Okay, so press and hold volume down and power at the same time. You can also take a screenshot of your iPhone much easier now. It's very similar to what we just did, but instead of pressing and holding the volume down key, you press and hold the volume up key, and you don't press and hold it for too long. You just press and hold and let go, okay? And that's going to take a screenshot. So let me show you how that works. So press and hold, let go, boom, you get a screenshot. When you get a screenshot, you can tap on that little thing, and then you can edit the screenshot if you so desire. For example, you can do some highlighting here just to bring attention to certain things. And then when you're ready, you can share this with anybody using any one of these apps. Or if you just want to save it, you click done. You can say save to photos, or you can say delete screenshot. All right. So that's how you take a screenshot on the iPhone 10. All right. So let me talk about the lock screen really quickly. So if I lock the phone, there's a couple ways for me to wake up my device. The one that is my favorite is the fact that you can simply tap on the screen, and that does allow you access to the lock screen. And when you do access a lock screen, I just want to show you one more thing here. You see that there's a flashlight icon and a camera button here. All you do is, let's tap it again, press and hold, do the 3D touch on it to activate that option. So as you can see, the flashlight was turned on. It's going to look like it's white. And then when you tap it again, it turns off the flashlight. Same thing with the camera. If you press and hold, it's going to launch the camera. And if you go like this, it's going to take you back to the lock screen. And also you can swipe over, and that's also going to launch the camera. And of course, if you swipe to this side, you're going to get access to your today's screen. And if you swipe from the top corner over here on the right side, it's going to bring down your control panel. Okay, so all these things can be done from the lock screen. If you swipe from here, it's not going to bring anything right now. And of course, if you want to access your notifications, if you have any, you go like that, and that will populate your notifications if you swipe up like that, okay? And if you don't want to use Face ID, which is set up right now, if I looked at the phone right now, it would actually unlock the phone. But if you don't want to use the Face ID, if the phone is flat on the table just like this, you can swipe from the bottom, just wait a couple seconds, and it's going to ask you to put your PIN number right in. And of course, a really quick tip for people that like to watch videos on their phones. If you're watching a video on your iPhone, it's going to have two black bars on both sides. That's just to make it clean and nice. But if you want to see it full screen, all you want to do is pinch out, and boom, it gets completely expanded for a full screen experience. And if you want to bring it back to normal with the bars, you just pinch right in, and boom, you get that original version. All right, zoom to fill, original. So again, on the older iPhones, if you wanted to bring up the control panel, you would swipe from the bottom, but obviously that's gone now. So what you do is, the control panel is actually hiding on the corner here. So you swipe from top right to down, and that brings up your control panel. Now, one thing I want you guys to notice on the top here is you see that there's a battery symbol, but it doesn't show you the battery percentage meter anymore. And there's no way to actually enable that. So if you want to see the actual battery percentage meter, what you would have to do is you would have to pull down the control center, and that's going to give you the actual percentage meter, just in case you're wondering exactly what you've got going on. And while we are in the notifications panel, I do want to let you know all these buttons here are 3D touchable, so pressable. So if I press and hold this guy, it's going to expand and give you even more options. Same thing with the music player. If I tap and hold, it's going to expand the music player. It's going to give me a bigger player and more options on the screen. And you can do this with just about any button over here. So with the brightness button, I can go like that, increase the brightness, decrease the brightness. I can turn on or off the True Tone display, okay? Or I can also turn on or off the night shift option. And then the same thing can be done with the volume. If you press and hold, it's called the 3D touch. It brings up that menu, the slider, and you can increase or decrease the volume on the go. And if you press these icons here, like the flashlight icon, that's going to bring the, that's the first level of flash, second, third, fourth. So that's the flashlight option. This is the maximum brightness, this is the minimum brightness, and this is when you turn off the flashlight. Same thing can be done with the camera. Okay, you can go to the selfie, record video, slow motion, all that good stuff. All right, and just so you know, just in case you're not aware, the control panel is in fact fully customizable. So what you could do is you could always go into the settings and you can scroll down, tap on control center, and tap on customize controls, and that's going to show you all the different things you can actually add to your control center, such as the screen recording option. So let's just add that real quick. Let's add one more thing. Let's add the alarm, Apple TV remote if you have an Apple TV. Now let's go back into the control center real quick, and you'll see a bunch of extra options. And if you have an Apple TV, here's a remote available to you that you can use right away. And as you can see, the one that I have in the living room pops right up, so I can connect to it simply by tapping this guy. And with the screen recording option, I can press and hold, and I can actually start to record everything that I do on my screen. So if I tap start recording, it's going to say 3, 2, 1, boom. So the recording starts. I can go back out. Let me tap this, go back out, launch something right here, then go back right in, click allow, go back right in. And then I can pull that down one more time, press and hold, and tap on stop recording, and it's going to save that into my photos folder, and I can go into my photos and actually play that video, which is going to be sitting right here, photos, tap that, play, and that's exactly what I just did a couple seconds ago. All right? So you can record your iPhone, whatever's happening on your iPhone, you can record that. You can record games, gameplay, whatever you want. Next up, I'm going to talk about the Face ID. So everything that you were able to do with the Touch ID on the old iPhones is now transferred to Face ID. So if I go to settings, and if I go back to the main home screen, and if I scroll down to where it says security, where we go, Face ID and passcode, let's tap on it, go inside. Let me put my passcode in. Once you're in here, you can see that you can use Face ID for iPhone unlock, Apple Pay, iTunes and App Store purchases, and also Safari autofill passwords. So if you were used to doing these with your Touch ID on the older iPhones, you can transfer all that now to Face ID. All you have to do is actually look at your phone right here, and you're good to go. And of course, if you ever want to reset your face, so if you want to re-record your face as a passcode, you would tap Reset Face ID, and that's going to allow you to re-record your face, or rather rescan your face. And while we are here, I want to show you a couple more things that you should probably pay attention to. And the biggest thing that I want to talk about is the require passcode immediately. If you tap this, you may have a couple other options. For some reason, it doesn't have it right now. But this is best left at immediately, because this means when you turn off your phone, the phone is locked immediately. There's no lag, okay? So if somebody tries to access the phone, it's locked already. Let me go back inside. So that's the require passcode option that you need to enable. And then you have a couple other options here. One thing I want to show you with the Face ID is it's not here. Some phones show it in this area. But if you go back out from here, and if you go to General, and if you go to Accessibility, there's an option here that says Attention. So you can enable these two options. They both pertain to Face ID. The first one is require attention for Face ID, meaning when your phone is unlocked and you try to turn it on and try to look at it, it's going to make sure that you're actually giving it your attention. For example, your eyes have to be looking at the screen so that the sensors on the top here can read it, okay? So if you're not looking at the iPhone, it's not going to unlock. So that's what the required attention for Face ID is. And this is also the same thing, works in conjunction with that one, attention aware features. So if you're sleeping and somebody actually tries to unlock the phone using your sleepy face, it's not going to allow that to happen. So make sure these two options are in fact enabled for Face ID. Now, a couple minutes ago, I showed you guys that if you're in the lock screen, you can basically access every feature of the iPhone. You can access the control center, you can access the today screen, and you can access anything on the screen. You can even see some of the notifications that people send you. So what I want to show you guys now is how to disable that so people have access to nothing on your lock screen, which I think is a security concern. So let me log in real quick. Go to the settings, and then scroll down, go back into Face ID and passcode. Pop in your passcode and then scroll down, and there is an option here. It says allow access when locked. You can disable access to all these features on the lock screen, so nobody can access Siri, nobody can access control center, nobody can see the recent notifications or your today's view. So let me just show you real quick. Let me just disable these for a minute, all of them. Let me go back into the lock screen and try to access these things. No access, no access, no access. Absolutely fantastic. If you want to truly secure your phone, I recommend that you disable those things from being shown on the lock screen. And as you can see, they're right here. I'm going to enable them for now, but you can always customize these things for future. And next thing I want to talk about is the restrictions. Again, I want everybody to be aware of restrictions on your iPhone. So normally anybody can access your apps, anybody can go to the Play Store and they can download an application if they so desired. With restrictions, you can actually turn off certain apps, and you can also turn off, prevent people from accessing the Play Store, downloading apps, and even making in-app purchases. Actually, you can even prevent people from deleting your apps. So if I press and hold right now, as you can see, I can delete any one of these apps, and that could cause problems if somebody accidentally deletes your app. So what you want to do is, let's go back home, settings, go back out real quick, all the way to the top, go to general and go to restrictions. Tap on it. It's going to ask you to enable it. Tap that again. It's going to ask you to pick a passcode. Now this passcode is unique to restrictions. It doesn't apply to anything else. So let's just pick a 000 for now for demonstration. And as you can see, you can disallow access to all these apps. If I go back to the home screen, here's Safari, here's the camera. Let's just disable those for a second to show you how it works. Let's go back to restrictions. It's going to ask you for a passcode, which makes sense. Disable Safari and camera, go back out, and now the camera and the Safari are gone. Okay, so that's how we disable access to certain apps. Let me go back in there real quick. Tap. And that's all great, but this is what really is interesting, this part right here. So you can prevent people from installing apps, you can prevent them from deleting apps, and you can prevent them from making in-app purchases, which could cost a lot of money. If you give your phone to a kid, they start playing games, and the next thing you know, the kid goes nuts and they're purchasing all kinds of stuff. But anyway, let's go back out real quick. I'm going to show you how you cannot delete apps anymore. So if I press and hold, it doesn't give me that X symbol. It does not allow me to actually delete applications. When you're done with this wiggling stuff, by the way, you can always click down the top here. All right. So let me go back here to restrictions. Just enable that everything for now. But this is an option that you guys have if you give your phone away to a lot of people. Enable, enable, enable. Fantastic. And of course, I want you guys to come and take a look over here. There's so much here you can do with the restrictions to secure your phone. Just come and study it very carefully. But these are the main highlights. These apps you can disable, and the fact that you can disable people from doing these three things. Fantastic. So the iPhone 10 is missing the home button. It's gone. And now you have to use different gestures to navigate your iPhone 10. Instead of pressing the home button to go back home, you have to swipe from bottom of the iPhone X towards the screen. Instead of double tapping the home button to bring up the app cards, you have to swipe from the bottom and take a little pause in the middle of the screen to bring up the app cards. Now, I don't have a problem with that, but a bunch of people have complained about losing the convenience the home button provided. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can get the home button on your iPhone X no problem. Obviously, it's not going to be a hardware button, but the iPhone X does have a built-in virtual home button that is hiding in the menu. Let me show you how to enable that. Alright, so here's all you have to do. The first thing you want to do to create the virtual home button is to go to the settings and then scroll down to General, then tap on Accessibility and go to where it says at the bottom a little bit, Assistive Touch. Tap on that Assistive Touch, enable that, and boom, you suddenly have a menu right here. Now, as it is right now, the menu actually serves multiple functions. I'm going to show you guys how to transform this into a single tap home button. So right now, if you tap this guy, it's multifunctional. So you can tap on the home, it'll go home. You can tap it again. You can actually tap the control center. It brings the control center down. If you want that option, you can have that as well. You can tap this again. You can tap on Siri. It's going to allow you to access Siri if you so desire. And you can also go into notifications by tapping this. It'll pull the notifications down. And if you tap it one more time, you can even go to Device and do all these things right over here if you so desire. Volume up, volume down. So for example, I can decrease the volume, as you can see. And all this is happening virtually. I can go to More, and I can even take a screenshot just by tapping this. Boom, there's a screenshot right there. Let me go back home here. Swipe that away, tap that one more time. Let me go to Device, go to More, and I can even bring up the multitasking pane by tapping that as opposed to using the regular gestures. But here's what I like to do. If you truly want a home button that is accessible most of the time, by the way, this thing is accessible anywhere. So if I go to Safari, it's going to be right there. And of course, you can take this guy and you can put it anywhere you want. So you don't have to have it right there. If you want it on the corner here, it'll be right there. As a matter of fact, it looks nice over there. So let's go home real quick. So let me show you how to transform this into a home button really quick. So go to Settings. You're back in that Assistive Touch menu. All you want to do is you want to go to Customize Top Level menu. You tap on this guy. And from here, you have 6 options. These options are the same options you see when you tap this icon. As you can see, they replicate each other right here. So all you want to do is remove everything and then tap on Custom and then choose Home and then click Done. Now the customized top level menu, the top level menu is exclusively a home button. So I can tap this guy and it's behaving as a home button would behave. If I double tap it, it'll bring up the multitasking pane just like on the older iPhones. So it's a very convenient feature to have. The great news is this thing is even further customizable. So if you go in here and if you look at the Assistive Touch, over here it says Custom Actions. So you can program what you want this button to do for single tap, double tap, long press, or 3D touch. So let me just show you the 3D touch. Tap on that. Let's say if I 3D touch on this thing, I want either Siri to come up or maybe I want the control center to come down. So let's do that right now. Go back out, go home. That's a regular press. If I do a 3D touch, it brings down the control center. Okay, so it's like a little remote control sitting on your desk. It's a virtual home button with multi-functionality if you so desire. So this tip has to do with your keyboard. Let's just go to Safari really quick and let's type in Amazon.com. Amazon.com. Okay, so as you can see, we made a mistake while we were typing. So what you can do is you can use your keyboard as a trackpad. You do that by doing a 3D touch on the keyboard. It turns into a trackpad and then you can precisely manipulate the cursor and put it exactly where you want it and then make the modifications and then you can go to the right website. That's an absolutely fantastic little tactic that I wish we had on the Android phones as well. So again, you can use the keyboard as a trackpad by doing a 3D pressing on it. Press and hold and then you can move the cursor exactly where you want, as opposed to tapping on the thing. As you can see, I cannot tap precisely between A, M, and A, for example. So I'm trying to do that, but it's not working. So if I want to put it right there, I can do it just like that. Fantastic. Let's move on to the next tip. The next tip has to do with the ability to jump to the top of a page if you have scrolled down a lot. So let's scroll all the way down. And let's say that this was a very long page and you want to go back up. Instead of going like this on the screen, all you have to do is either tap this side or that side of the screen next to the notch, and that will bring you right up in a second. So just like that, boom, one tap. Now that same tip works in every location. So if I was in the settings and if I scroll all the way down, I can do the same thing in the settings. So you get the idea. This is an all inclusive feature. And one more thing you can do with the 3D touch is if you press and hold on the screen, as you know, it's going to bring up a quick actions menu. On many of the apps, this is supported, so you can go to the phone, do the same thing. You can go to the text messages, do the same thing. And one thing that you can do is when you press and hold, you don't have to let go of the screen to tap another option such as this right here. What you could do is you can press and hold and then just slide up just like that without letting the screen go. And that's also going to serve the same function. So it's just one less step to do. All right, the next tip has to do with the power button. You can actually triple click the power button and you can configure it to bring up a variety of options. The first thing you want to do is you want to go to the settings and then you want to go to general and then go to accessibility and go all the way down, and over here it says accessibility shortcut. If you click on this, you'll see that it's saying triple click the side button for any one of these options. So let me just show you one example really quick. Let's choose the classic invert colors. So if I tap on this guy, let me take that off for a second. And let me grab this phone. So let me triple click the home button, 1, 2, 3. And as you can see, that did a classic invert colors for me. Just by using the home button, I did not have to come into the accessibility to modify this option. And if you want to disable an option, you triple tap it one more time and it goes right back to the other option. Now what you could do is you can choose other options such as the assistive touch. So let me tap on that and let me untap this guy and let me just triple click one more time. And as you can see, that brings up the home button over here that you can use for a lot of different functions. Okay, so you can tap on this to bring up Siri. You can tap it to bring down the control center. If I tap on this guy, the control center will come right down and all that good stuff. And if I had chosen two of these at the same time, what would happen is if I triple click the button, well, first of all, it's going to give me the option. Which option do you want to choose? So as I have enabled the assistive touch and the classic invert, I can choose from any one of those guys. And let's say that I had all of these guys actually checked. If I press press the home button, all these options will come up at any screen. All right, so let's move on to the next tip. All right, the next tip has to do on how to lock your notes. So you can create secure notes and put them on a lockdown. So let's launch the Notes application. And let's say that you want to create a brand new note. So let's create that right now. And let's just say this is a secret note with sensitive information. After you have created your note, all you want to do is tap this button here next to where it says done. And at the bottom here, it's going to say lock note. When you tap on the lock note, it's going to ask you to either scan your face if you have that enabled, or you can put in your password, which is the one that you use to unlock your phone. So of course, it did not see my face, so I'm going to just tap on enter password, and then I'm going to put my PIN number that I usually use to unlock my smartphone, which I did just now. I'm going to click OK, and as you can see, it's going to say the lock has been added. So over here, you're going to see a little lock symbol. Right now, it is unlocked because I'm inside the note, but I can click on this and it locks the note. Then I go back out. And as you can see, it's going to retain the title because that's the only thing I entered, but it's not going to show you any of the actual contents. So if I want to view this note, I tap on view. It's going to try to scan my face first using the Face ID. And when that's not going to work, it's going to ask me to put the password in. Let me do that really quick. I'm going to show you one thing. So the first line is always the title. So if I go down here and I add some extra stuff and I click done and I lock this out and I go back out, as you can see, you cannot see the contents like you would see over here. And of course, when somebody presses it, it's completely hidden. All right, so make sure to utilize this awesome feature. All right, so when you buy your iPhone 10, what happens is you get 5 gigabytes of free iCloud storage. But you're probably not aware that you can actually increase that all the way up to 50 or 100 for a very low price right in your iPhone 10 in case you need to back up your phone entirely to the cloud. So what you want to do is you want to tap on the settings and you want to go all the way up where you have your account card. You tap on this guy and then go to iCloud, and from here tap on manage storage. And as you can see, it's going to give you the option over here. If you go back here, it shows you iCloud is 5 gigabytes and I'm using 2.5 gigs. So let's say I needed some more. I would tap on this manage storage real quick and that'll give me the option to change the storage plan. And of course, when you tap on this option here, it's going to take you to the next screen that's going to allow you to purchase more storage, which is right here. So as you can see, for just $1 a month, you can get 50 gigabytes of storage. And for $3 a month, you can get 200 gigabytes. Now, these two options are a little bit too much for me, for my taste. But $1 a month is nothing for 50 gigabytes of storage. So then all you have to do is tap on one of these options, and it's going to ask you to buy. So you can click buy, and you can buy with all the various options available to you. All right, so if you want increased storage, this is the way to go. All right, let's move on to the next tip. The next tip has to do with multitasking. Now, as you know, if you pull from the bottom of the home to the up and you pause, it's going to bring up the cards, and then from here you can switch your apps. The other thing you can do is if you're in any app, you can actually swipe at the bottom. You see that black bar at the bottom, the horizontal bar? You can just swipe over that, and that will take you to the next app next to whatever you're working with. So if I swipe over there, it goes to the camera. If I swipe one more time, it's going to go to the notes, which I had opened a little while ago. So you don't have to just do this to access all these cards. You can switch back and forth using the screen at the bottom. You have to swipe that way to the right, okay? And one more tip that I use all the time is when I go to a website, and let's say it's a website I use all the time, what you could do is you can add it to your bookmarks, but I like to add it to my home screen. So I go to Amazon.com. It's something I use all the time. I tap this guy here, and what I do is I go over here, and it says add to home screen. I click that. It's going to ask me the name of the shortcut, which I'm going to, let's just say A, and it goes to that website. That's the address of the actual website. I click add, and then you're going to see that it goes right onto your home screen. So when I tap this guy, it's going to launch Safari and go straight to Amazon.com. And then let me just do one more. I'm going to show you the next thing I do with these things. So let's say I go to Google.com. Do the same thing. Tap on that button, scroll over, add to home screen, pick a name. Let's just keep it Google. Click add. So now I have Amazon, I've got Google, and then what I like to do is I like to group them in a folder, just like that. Let me just take that over, put it right here, and I can give it a name such as bookmarks, links, or my favorite websites and all that stuff. So now I have a folder that I can use to quickly access these quick shortcuts. Anytime I click one of these guys, it's going to launch Safari and go straight to that website. Alright, so this next option has to do on how to save some storage on your iPhone. So if you tap on settings, and if you go scroll down to general, and if you scroll down just a little bit, well, you don't even have to scroll down, it's right there. Tap on iPhone storage, and it's going to ask you to offload unused apps. So basically, if there's a lot of apps that are on your iPhone 10 and you're not using them, this option is going to enable you to automatically get rid of those apps. So if you look at the writing over here, it says I'll be able to save 490 megabytes if I enable this option, which is fantastic because that could be that saved space could be reserved for more music or more videos. All right, so that's one more option. Now the next option has to do with reachability. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard about that, but it's kind of hard to actually access it. So let me just launch an icon here, an app here, and let's say that I'm using this app with one hand and I want to actually tap here, but I don't want to actually put the phone down or use my second hand. I just want to continue using the interface with one hand. What I could do is I could use reachability. All you do is you swipe down right here and the entire iPhone just comes down, so you can actually tap that option. So I can go like this, and then I can tap here and do whatever I want. All right, so it's very simple. All you have to do is take a look at that white bar here. just put your finger right up there and just swipe down, and boom, it's right there. Now make sure this option is in fact enabled. You do have to go to the settings, go to general, and also go to accessibility. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see reachability. So make sure this one is enabled. If you disable it, it's not going to work. Now let's say you're on a website and you're just browsing around. You should be aware that your iPhone has a built-in dictionary to look up words that you do not know about. So basically, let's say I'm on this website here and I take a look at one of these words, I don't know what it is. I can simply do a press and hold on it. And then when the option comes here, I can tap on lookup, and that actually brings up the dictionary and gives me a definition. Now the funny thing is you can have multiple dictionaries. As you can see, there's one dictionary here, and then you have a bunch of other options, but the dictionaries show up on the top here. Now what you could do is you can add additional dictionaries if you want, multiple dictionaries, and also in different languages. Let me show you how to get that done. So click down over here. So what you want to do is you want to go to the settings, you want to go to general, and then scroll down and you'll see a dictionary option. You tap on this guy, and from here it's going to allow you to enable all the dictionaries that you want. Now if you keep going down, you'll see that they have all these different languages built in, stuff like Turkish, Swedish, Russian, and all that good stuff. Or you also have a bunch of extra English dictionaries. So when you first turn on your iPhone, when you first set it up, this one is not enabled. But if you want that dictionary enabled, you tap this guy so you get more options on your thing. So basically when you go back into Safari and look up a word, you'll see more definitions, including Turkish, because I added that dictionary. All right, let's move on to the next tip. You paid over $1,000 for this smartphone, and it's best that you know how to use every aspect of its wonderful camera. So I'm just going to go over every little thing that I think you need to know to enhance your ownership. Towards the end of the video, for the sake of people who want to get really serious with this camera, I will show you how to get full manual control over the iPhone's camera, which allows you to individually tweak the exposure by manually controlling things like the ISO value, the shutter speed, and manual focus, much like a DSLR camera. Before I do dive in, I need you to fully understand that the iPhone X camera is a dual camera system, meaning you get two cameras in this phone. The first one is a standard angle camera. It is 12 megapixels with an aperture of f1.8, while the second one is a telephoto camera. It is also 12 megapixels camera with an aperture of f2.4. So as I dive in, be aware of that. And the very first thing I will show you is the distinction between the standard angle camera and the telephoto camera. Let's dive in and discover. All right, so let's dive right in and start talking about the camera. As you can see, I have the camera application launched and it's at the photo mode. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is I want to actually make a quick and clear distinction between the standard lens and the telephoto lens that I talked about in the beginning of the video. The reason you have that secondary telephoto lens is for two reasons. One of them is to be able to zoom in optically 2 times. So if I tap on this button, you get 2 times optical zoom. All right, so you don't lose the image quality, but you can zoom in on something 2 times optically. And if you tap it again, it goes back to 1 time zoom. Now in this 1x zoom, you are using that primary camera. But the moment I tap on this guy, you're using the secondary telephoto camera. Just be aware of that. That's one reason you have that secondary camera. Another reason you have that secondary camera is the portrait option. So when you swipe over, you go to the portrait mode. The portrait mode allows you to basically focus in on a subject, an object, a person. It's actually designed for people. It gives you sharp and crystal clear focus on the primary subject. In this case, I'm using this lens over here. And then everything around that lens kind of blurs out into a creamy background. And that's what's called bokeh effect. So basically, that's the only reason you have that secondary telephoto lens, to get 2 times optical zoom and to be able to access the portrait option. So when you are using this mode, just remember you are utilizing that secondary camera. And the good thing is you actually have 5 different modes you can play with here. So if you tap on this icon, it says natural light. If you tap on this icon, you get a wheel. You can actually switch over to studio light, contour light, stage light, and also to the stage light mono. That means monochrome, right? And basically make sure when you come to these 2 options here, the last 2 options, that you put the face of the person in the middle here. so you get the appropriate effect. Again, it is designed for people, not objects. I'm just using this right now because it's easy to demonstrate, but you can use all these different options and play with them to get different and nice studio effects. Bottom line, you're using the secondary camera just to get this option. All right, so that's it with the primary and the secondary lens. Now you know what they're there for. Let me switch over and give you other tips and tricks. Now I know that some of you guys are not experts, so I'm gonna give you a couple basics. To swipe between modes, all you have to do is this. So you're gonna go to portrait, you can go to square mode, you can go to panorama mode, and then you can go back the same way. If you wanna record a video, you swipe right over, and now you can record a video. You have slow motion, and you also have the time-lapse option. But we're gonna go back to photo. I'm gonna give you one tip here that I'm sure a lot of people are not aware of. So the first thing you can do is you can tap on the screen to focus on a subject. So I'm focusing on the lens. And let's say that you're looking at that picture and you think the picture doesn't look quite bright, or maybe it's too dark. What you could do is you can simply put your finger, like you can focus on the subject and simply swipe up and down to actually darken the picture or make it lighter. What you're really doing is you're changing the exposure of that photo. So if something is too bright, you can bring it down, you can darken it. And if something is too dark, you can bring it up to bring in more light and get a better exposed photo. So that's one tip you can use on the camera directly. And the other thing you can do is you can actually press and hold on a subject. And what you can do is you can get, it says over here, AE and AF lock. So AE means auto exposure and AF means auto focus. So basically what you just did was you disable the automatic aspect and you lock them in place. So right now the exposure and the focus has been locked. So all you have to do is you have to press and hold. You can do this on any place. You can press and hold on the table here. Boom. Now the focus is locked right here, and so is the exposure based on this area. All right. And if you want to cancel it, you just tap anywhere else and it gets canceled. But the biggest thing really is just to do this to brighten or darken your photo just to get a better shot. All right. So let's move on to the next tip. Again, I'm just going to give you some of the basics just in case we're dealing with some beginners. Not everybody's an expert. So on the top here, you tap this guy, and you can actually apply an effect live. So you can see an effect, how it's going to look before you even take the picture. You have a bunch of these guys, so you can always do that. If you tap it again, it disappears. Over here, you've got the timer. You can set it to 3 seconds. So if you take a picture, it's going to do a countdown to 3, and then it's going to take the actual picture. So let's disable that, and this is something off, and this is the live photo mode. This is something I always disable. Basically what it does is when you enable the live photo, when you take a picture, it records 3 seconds before and after the photo, giving you a live effect. Now this is something I do always disable, and of course you've got the flash here, auto on or off. All right, not a big deal, some of the basics. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the video mode. And also I'm going to be talking about the slow motion mode. So you bought the iPhone X and it's got incredible video recording capabilities, such as being able to record at 4K at 60 frames per second. But right now, when you first buy the iPhone, it's not set to record at 4K. You have to go in and you have to tweak the settings. Now, if you look on the top here, it says HD and 60. What that means is you're recording at 1080p, which means high definition, at 60 frames per second. So you're getting a little hint on the top here. So what if you want to go to 4K at 30 frames per second or 4K at 60 frames per second? What you want to do is you actually want to go to the settings, all right? And you want to scroll down to the camera option, tap on that camera option, and then over here it says record video. You tap this guy, and this is going to allow you to change, pick between different modes. You can do 720 at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 30 frames per second, 1080p at 60 frames per second, and then you have these 4 options for 4K. 4K at 60 frames per second. Now let me go back into the camera and show you one thing really quick. Go to the camera. We're back in the video mode. Now if you look on the top, it says 4K 60. So you know that you're recording at 4K at 60 frames per second. And let me go back into the settings now. Let's get rid of that. Go to the settings over here. And then just one thing to realize here is it says 4K at 60 frames per second is only available in high efficiency mode. So if you go back here to the camera and you go to the formats, as you can see, I have the most compatible enabled. Now that's not going to work for 4K at 60 frames per second. I would have to go to high efficiency, and then when I go back over here to record video, it doesn't say high efficiency anymore. It's actually enabled. It is going to work. Okay, so just be aware, you do have to use the high efficiency mode to record at 4K at 60 frames per second. The reason is because high efficiency takes less space on your smartphone. And 4K videos can take a lot of space on your phone if you're not careful. So let's go back here. Let me go back over here for 1 second. If you look over here, it does tell you if you were to record a video for 1 minute under 4K at 60 frames per second, it will take 400 megabytes of space. That's a lot. In comparison, if you record at 1080p at 60 frames per second, you only waste 90 megabytes of space for 1 minute of video. So just be aware of these things as you're recording the video and as you're recording, choosing from these different options. But the biggest thing I really wanted to share with you guys was when you do go back in here, you should be able to see what mode you're recording it by looking at the top corner over here. All right. Now the same thing applies to slow motion video. If I scroll over, right now it says nothing. That means if you see nothing, it means it's default. Okay, so let me go back here, go to the settings, go back, go to slow motion, and it's at the default setting, which is 1080p at 240 frames per second. But if you choose this guy and go back to the camera and look on the top, you're going to see high definition at 120 frames per second for the slow motion mode. All right. Now let's go back to the settings and we'll talk about a couple more things. One more thing I want you to do is make sure you enable the grid. It comes unenabled, so when you go to the camera, you will not see lines on the camera. If you have the lines, it's easier to align subjects better within the camera's frame. So always go there to the settings and make sure that grid is enabled. So when I go over here to the camera, you'll see these lines on the camera that's going to help you align photos better or subjects better within the frame of your phone. All right, a couple more things in here that are important. All right, so let's go back into the camera settings. I'm going to show you a couple more things here that are important. We talked about all these guys here. This one is very obvious. You can use the camera to scan QR codes. If you disable it, the camera is going to lose that functionality. If you enable it, the camera is not going to lose that functionality. Now, here's something a little more important. It relates to photography directly. You can enable or disable auto HDR mode. Now, HDR stands for high dynamic range. Basically, if you enable this, you're going to get pictures that look more vibrant, more colorful, and richer overall. So let me go back out here. Let me launch the camera. Now, if you look at the top here, you only have 4 options. And normally you would see the HDR option here too, but it's not there because we have it set it to automatic mode. So if I go back out to the settings, if I disable this, you do have the option to actually turn off the HDR. You can turn it off, on, or you can keep it at auto. All right. Now in the settings, if you put it to auto, you never have to worry about it. Every single time it uses the HDR mode, which I personally recommend that you keep. You will get the best possible shot by having HDR enabled at all times. Now, if you're somewhat of a professional and you want to have a non-HDR photo for some reason, you can do that as well. Just disable that from the settings menu. All right, so that's basically all the little settings you have to worry about within the camera. The other thing you can worry about is if you launch the camera, what you could do is you can take burst photos. So I can press and hold, and it will take photos as long as I press that button, if I keep that shutter button pressed. So as you can see, and what I could do is I can tap on select and select from any one of those 15 photos. So I can, the point of this is, let's say I go out to the camera, right? Let's say I'm taking a bunch of pictures of something. I can press and hold, it will take a bunch of pictures, then I launch that picture, and I see the select option, I tap on it, and now it's going to allow me to pick the best picture. I can do it manually. I can pick the best picture from that burst mode that I just did. So let's say I thought this was the best. I click this guy, and I click done, and then I can keep everything or keep only 2 favorites. Now I did pick 2. I have 1, so let me just do 1 here, and let's click done. So keep everything, meaning do you want to keep all the 7 burst photos or do you want to delete one of them? I can just say keep only 1 favorite. It deletes the remaining 7. All right. Now, as you can see, you don't see select at the bottom anymore. But if I go back in here and take another burst photo, and if I go to the preview, I'll see the select. Now I have 5 photos I can choose from. Let me just cancel for now. I'm going to show you one more thing. So I'm sure you are aware that every time you take a photo, it gets saved in the Photos library here. There's a couple things you can tweak with the library also. So what you want to do is you want to go to the settings, and instead of going to the camera, go to the photos. Tap on it, and then you have a bunch of options. The very first option I ask people to enable is the iCloud photo library. So you do get 5 gigs of storage on iCloud with every purchase of an iPhone. So if you want to make sure that all your photos are saved, backed up to the iCloud, you can keep this enabled. So every time you do take a photo or take a video, shoot a video, it gets uploaded to your iCloud photo library, and also it's available across all your Apple devices. The only problem is 5 gigs could fill up really quickly, so just use this with care. Okay, and then the other things you can do, you can allow Siri to search for photos. So if you want to use Siri to look for a photo that was taken today, you can actually ask that from Siri. So let me do that right now. Hey Siri, show me the photos that were taken today. So as you can see, these are the photos I'm showing today that I just took with you guys as I was making demonstrations. So if you want that option enabled, make sure that you go in here, go to the settings, and the Siri and search is in fact enabled under photos. All right, very simple. And the other thing here is, as you upload, if you enable this iCloud photo, if the iCloud photo library is enabled, meaning you're uploading your photos to your iCloud library, you should go here and you should make sure that you don't use your cellular data for uploads, only use Wi-Fi. The reason is because if you have a limited data plan, it's going to actually waste your data. So make sure you only do this when you are connected to your Wi-Fi and not by using your cellular data. Alrighty? And that's basically all there is to it. There's nothing special going on here. If you do scroll down, one more thing I want you to enable is this guy right here. It says View Full HDR. So at all times, your photos look as best as they could. All right, let's go back to the home screen and talk about the remaining tips. And of course, a very simple tip that, again, a lot of people don't know, especially beginners, is the fact that you can use the volume controls to take a photo. So instead of pressing this button, you can just press this guy and it'll take a photo, or you can press the volume up, it'll take a photo. Absolutely fantastic. And finally, I'm going to talk to an audience that might be into a little more advanced photography, and maybe they're desiring a full manual mode, meaning that you want to control ISO, you want to control exposure, and you want to control other things like the shutter speed manually, as opposed to the camera app doing everything for you, just in case you want to do some advanced photography. Now with the Android phones, such as the Galaxy S8 or some of the LG phones, you're getting these apps built into the phone, and you can do manual photography. With the Apple, you can't do that, but you could download apps, and I'm going to recommend you 2 apps, actually just one to be honest. You can either get Camera Plus, which I don't use that often, but the Pro Camera is something that will allow you full manual control over your camera as if you were using a DSLR camera. So let me tap on this guy, and as you can see, this is a camera app, but it's much more advanced than your regular application, the camera application that comes with your iPhone. First of all, at the bottom, immediately you have an exposure meter, so you can actually change the exposure. You can make the picture brighter or darker based on your needs. But if you tap this icon here, you have all these options. You have the ISO and the shutter speed. You can control this stuff manually. You can tap this guy here, and it says manual mode is now enabled. On the top, you see the shutter speed, the exposure value, and the ISO value. Now, if I tap this again, it goes away, and I can tap this, guys. I can change the shutter speed manually. So I can have it at 60 seconds or whatever, 60 seconds. I can change the ISO, so I can change the ISO to 320 perhaps, and then take a photo that way manually. Again, if you want full control over your camera, you can download these apps. And as you can see, there are so many options. You can even do focus lock. You can have all different kinds of grids, but you can change different grids. You can have a tilt meter here. If I tap this guy, it shows you how level your camera is and all that good stuff. Again, I'm not going to give you a tutorial on this actual app, but if you want to explore it, it's called Pro Camera. I think it's a couple bucks, but it's worth it if you're into serious photography. But if you're not into serious photography, you still have an amazing little app here. It just simply doesn't give you the manual recording options. And that brings us to the end of this video, and I hope you learned some new and useful tactics so you can better enjoy your iPhone. Now make sure to subscribe to SAKITECH and give this video a thumbs up. And like I said, if you do use Twitter and Instagram, make sure to follow me on both @SAKITECH Online. Have a fantastic day.